Hello from Magicland Farms. We're back out in the orchard again to show off some of our unique apples. Um, this one here that is by me is the Caville Blanc. It is an old French apple. This tree in particular is actually one of my one of the grafted trees that my father did. So he actually purchased he purchased 4 trees before he actually owned the farm. This was a long time ago. And he planted it at our homestead. And then when he bought the farm, he transplanted those 4 trees down here. And from those 4 trees, he propagated from them to mainly the Caville Blanc. He propagated some of those through graft. So this is one of them. So this is at least 40. Ooh, I can't quite remember, but at least 40 years old. My father was very. He had great interest in the unique apples. That's one reason why we have over 100 varieties of apples. This one particular, I find it interesting because it makes the best pies on the planet. It is extremely high in vitamin C. I used to call it the vitamin C apple because it tastes like a vitamin C supplement pill sometimes. But another unique trait that I love for pies is that it will never cook down. Even late in the in storage, it gets a really soft apple. You still can peel it, make a pie out of it, and it will never cook down. It'll just have always the perfect texture for a pie. Well, I was mentioning that it was a old French apple. It was actually dated back to some of the French kings. I can't quite remember if my brother Mark was here. If you ever see him at the stand, you should ask him about the history about some apples. It would have been one of the King Louis, but they know that it dates back to there because of some tapestry paintings and so forth that show the apple. It's quite unique in the way it looks, so they can actually identify it that way. Well, that's it. That's pretty much what I wanted to show on this one. I would like to take you, actually, if you want to walk right over here. Another one of the Caville Blancs, another one that my father grafted. And then around here, I'm taking you on a little journey because we're going to the Garden of Eden. This apple here, which you might not see at the stand, it's our one and only tree. It's known as the Garden of Eden apple because it's so old that they jokingly consider it to be as old as the Garden of Eden. It is actually dated back to the times of the Romans. It's Court Pendu Plot is the name. And this is such a rich, unique textured apple that this is definitely the kind that you would want to have with cheese or wine. I mean, it's one of those extreme flavored apples. Not many people this day and age would like such a flavored apple, but we like growing our weird ones. As you can see, it has fallen over this year. It has a weak rootstock. Luckily though, it has just fallen over due to the roots. We should be able to prop it back up and it'll still survive. But once again, this is more of a teaser because I most likely won't have enough for the stand. But I just wanted to show you that we have some, and not all the varieties that we have will ever show up at the stand. All right, so I'll take you to some of my other ones that are at the stand. Yeah, I'm taking you over to another one of our rarer trees, the Ashman's Kernel, but I thought you might be somewhat interested in that this is one of the original trees of the orchard. Those, correction, I think I said 3 trees that my father planted first were the 4 trees from from the homestead he transplanted to here. This is the Caville Blanc that he grafted off of. It's still growing, still strong. This one here, along with the rose bush that I have to remove, is one of the original strains of the Granny Smith. My father grew that one. He never really liked it that much, but his sister did, Marianne. And then over here, the Ashmead's Kernel was another one of the trees, one of the 4 that he planted here. It is an extremely intense apple. It is one of my it's one of the favorites of one of the some of my employees. It's a russet apple, meaning it has the rough skin. It's extremely tart, sweet, and intense flavors. I mean, they do say that you could use this for, once again, one of the wine and cheese charcuterie boards and so forth, but this one's so intense I don't know if that's so good. I'm not going to bite into it because that's all I'm going to be tasting for a little while. And then just a note, the other last of the trees that he planted was the Tolman Sweet that I mentioned in the last video. Now the Ashmead's Kernel, it is a relatively old tree. Why I say relatively old? Because I have so many really old trees that even if they're from the 1800s, which this one is, those are fairly new for me. Other than its unique intensity, there isn't actually too much else to explain about this one. So yeah, I think I'll take you to another intense apple, the King David. And here we are at the King David apple. It is a very intense apple. This one's actually not that hard to explain because to me, if you had a Jonathan, which is a fairly common apple, it's like a Jonathan times 10. It's like eating 10 Jonathans in one apple. Extremely flavorful. It's a really good flavor. I like the Jonathan flavor. But once again, if you bite into it, that might be what you'd be tasting for a while. It's a newer apple for us in terms of that this is a fairly young tree. I mean, it's, what, 15 years old. That's pretty young for us. But yeah, it was planted in this little older section here to fill in a place that another tree had died. Let's see, maybe I can show it. Don't know if it'll show up well in camera, but it is a very yellow apple. No, it doesn't. I don't know if I'll be able to show, but the flesh is very yellow. Almost looks very rich. See if I can get one that looks a little. No, I don't think it'll show up that well, but it's a very rich apple also. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that one's very intense. I'll be showing you another intense apple that has a special trait further down. That will be a surprise. And this is the surprise that I wanted to show you. And surprise, that is its name. It's a very intense apple again. It has a very unique flavors that only this type of apple has. That is actually why it was called surprise, because of how intense a flavor it is. But how us as kids down here, we were more surprised by what was inside. It's a pink apple. This is not a trickery of genetics or anything like that. This is actually a type of apple that naturally has a red pigment inside. The intensity is quite strong. It's one of those apples that you can't tell what it tastes like, because there's so few apples that have even close to that kind of taste. So as kids, we were always fascinated by it, because biting into them gave you an actual surprise. This is an actually old variety. It's from the 1800s. It got very popular in Europe, and then was brought over. I can't quite remember when it was brought over, but it was brought over, and some development was done about these type of apples. Another one which we have, but I can't really show examples of it, is Pink Pearl. It looks pretty much just like this, so, and tastes about the same. So what you see is also very similar to a Pink Pearl. All right, now I'll be take you to the less intense apples. Actually, a very special one for me, and I'll explain why in a bit. All right, now this is the apple that I was just mentioning. It's blushing golden. It may not look like a very special apple. It is pretty though. I mean, it looks like a golden delicious with a nice red blush. Right now, it doesn't taste great. I mean, it's still a decent eating apple. But for me, in storage, when you pick it and wait until like Christmas, that's why I have in the past called this the Christmas apple, is that it changes its flavor. It gets a great flavor. The texture is awesome in terms that it's still very hard, very crisp, delicious to have around Christmas time, and it will last all winter. Not all year, but all winter. So I do have enough to sell this year, but I will be keeping a lot for myself, because this is the apple that I will eat late into winter, because it's the best one for that, in my opinion. There is this tree that you see. We only have one tree, but we used to have like 10 or 15. I can't quite remember. We used to have quite a few of them. They all died because of one unique thing about these trees. Back in the this would be back in the 80s, I believe. 80s or early 80s or late 70s, probably early 80s. There was a development of to try to do a dwarf apple tree by doing a rootstock, then grafting another tree on top of that, and then your actual tree on top of that. So there were 3 types of trees. That was that choker point on there, was to try to keep the tree from getting too big. Just to let you know, that doesn't work. In the industry, they don't do that anymore. Because as you see, we only have one tree left because it died because of that. You can see, I think it's still visible on this one. Yeah, it's still visible on this one. Is this bulge here is another part of a tree. This here would be the blushing golden. Down below would be a rootstock, and this is a choker here. This was the point where most of the other trees died from, because due to grafts not working and so forth. just thought you would be interested in knowing some of the changes in the apple industry. They practiced with that one. They tried it. It doesn't work. I think they're actually trying to do that again, but it might be different now just because they do have different types of rootstocks and trees to try that with. But personally, I would just stick with a rootstock and the grafting directly onto a rootstock rather than having 3 types of trees. Well, I hope I didn't bore everyone, but thank you for watching. And, well, I hope you will enjoy some of the apples that we have for sale at the stand. A lot of the ones that I just mentioned we do have down there, except for, sadly, we won't have the Corpen du Plat, I'm pretty sure. So, thank you again for watching, and bye.